It's Simply Jatan here, and welcome to my vlog. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, thank you for checking out this video. Please do me a favor and subscribe and like. I first would like to say thank you to all the people that have watched my last video on how I raised my credit score, as well as have shared it with others and given me some feedback as to what may help them or what situation they're in, which is why I decided to record this video today. Several people reached out to me and said, hey, like that makes sense, that makes perfect sense. However, I only have one credit card, so that won't necessarily work for me. It won't necessarily help me. So that's the reason why I'm doing today's video, which is on how to rebuild or to establish credit. So by no means am I a credit expert. However, if I can give tips and tricks based off of my circumstances and the things that I've experienced over time and tell you what has helped me, then that's what I'm going to do. So today's video is basically going to be giving you guys tips on what you can do when you don't have credit, or if you have credit and you just need to repair or rebuild to get you to that next stage of owning a business, opening up a credit card, or financing a car or buying a house. So I hope this helps you. And again, I just ask that you continue to share, like, and subscribe so we can help each other out and keep coming with the feedback, because if it's something that one person is experiencing, there's most likely others that are experiencing the same thing. Next month marks the 7th year that I've been a homeowner. And I began the process after attending a first-time homebuyer class at the Christiana Sheridan in Newark or Newcastle, whatever that is. And the guy was basically saying what you need to do in order to get into the position of buying a house. So at that time, he was like, you only need a 640 credit score for most banks to finance you, and things of that nature. So I'm like thinking to myself, like, hey, that's obtainable. I got tired of paying rent. Rent was super high. I wanted something that I would be able to stay in for a long time, especially knowing that I can get a whole house for less than what I was paying in rent. So that was like the main things that motivated me to get the process started. So that December, I started looking at my credit bureau, and he was saying like that was one of the tips that he gave. He was like, look at your credit report, see what's reporting on there, and make sure that what needs to be reporting is, and what is not needed on there or what is not yours gets removed. So I looked at my credit report. There were several items on there that I did not recognize. So I can't remember at this time because it was so long ago, but it was like one of the credit reporting agencies, they allowed you to file disputes online. So I started doing that. I think I had like 17 that I saw come up, and within the first month, I started getting letters back, and they were basically saying that my credit bureau has been updated, 11 were removed. That was great news to me. However, my score was not moving, so I'm thinking like, hey, that was the only things on there. Like, since they were removed, my credit score should go up. But that wasn't the case, because what might report on one credit bureau may not report on another. So you need to go through all three credit. However, I did not know that at the time, so I didn't know to go through all three. So when I finally reached out to the guy that held the home buyers class, he was talking about a guy that had worked for all three credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and he had over 25 years of service in the business. So he did this for a living. He helped people repair their credit. And he was saying like, this is something that you can do on your own. However, I felt like I did everything. But after talking to the credit reporting guy, he was saying that I didn't get everything. I didn't dispute everything. So at that time, he printed out everything. He sent me out envelopes. He told me to make copies of my driver's license or ID showing my current address, and provided me with stamps. And I mailed that information out to those companies that were reporting on there. And again, that started the waiting process for me to hear back from them. Now, by law, they have 30 to 60 days to return something back to you saying whether or not it is valid, showing you why it is valid. And if they're not able to do so, they are supposed to update and remove that from your credit report. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but that is the case. So I did that, And there was also some things that did not get removed off my credit report. So I was so glad that I utilized him, because once I paid my fee, it wasn't like anything that I had to pay monthly. So 7 years ago, I had to pay $99, and he stuck with me all the way until the time I was pre-approved for my mortgage. So whatever didn't get removed, he was able to analyze what was left on there, what I needed to call and make arrangements on, what I needed to pay, and what I needed to just leave there because it wasn't going to make a difference either way. So when you have somebody like that, that's going to, one, save you time, and number two, save you. I can't say for sure that if I didn't have him assisting me and telling me what to do, whether or not I would have paid off the rest of the stuff that was left on there. But after talking to him, he was like, some things you don't want to pay because it could negatively hurt you. It could restart the derogatory information on, that has been reporting on your credit bureau. So there were some things that were like hundreds of dollars that I was thankful, because what I didn't have to pay, I was able to use that money that was set aside to put towards the closing costs and things of that when it came to purchasing my house. So I say all that to say, I used a credit repair company in the past, and it worked tremendously. I know some associates that do that now, and I will share their links on my Facebook page. However, I will say, do your research. I can't vouch for something that I've never used. So I will say that, and that is my disclosure. I can't vouch for things that I've not necessarily tried or used. I'm not a liar. I can't sit up there and say one thing or another. Everybody's situation is going to be different. So even if that person is excellent at what they do, I can't necessarily say because I haven't used them, but I will provide that information. I can't remember the guy. I know that he's out of Ohio. That's the only thing, because my mom a couple years ago asked me for his information and I couldn't find it. But again, that was something that worked amazingly for me. However, now that I was able to get to the point of raising my credit score, now it's just like a maintaining game for me. So that last video was telling you how I increased my scores, because your scores, no matter what, will fluctuate. So in this video, I just want to talk about how to establish and get credit. So the first step, as I was just talking about, is get familiar with your credit report. Make sure that whatever's reporting on there should be reporting on there. And if not, then you're going to have to dispute stuff and go from there. The next step that I will tell you is to, once you get familiar, then you can start applying for a credit card. Now, there are some people that are like, oh, I hate credit cards and they're the devil and so forth and so on. Yeah, that can be the case if you misuse it. And there's a ton of ways that you can do that. But if you don't want a credit card or you don't think you'll get approved, don't keep applying for credit cards, because each inquiry that you have somebody pull your credit can affect you in a negative way, in a derogatory way. So don't keep getting your credit pulled, because even with little or no credit, that can still hurt you. So apply for credit cards, but don't over apply. If you don't get approved for your first one, start researching secured cards. Secured cards are when you put the money up front and have the bank the bank will basically run it as if they were the ones that put the money up front for you to get that credit card, which is what most credit card companies will do. However, if you're not in a position to get approved by a credit card company lending you the money to use, then secure card will definitely get approved for you. And I believe you can start them at as little as $300. Again, do your research. I'm providing basic high-level information. I'm not going to research everything. Everybody is different. So if I can just give you these tips, that will be a starting point for you to do the rest of the work. So the secure card, a lot of places will tell you that if you maintain and have a good history with them for a certain amount of times, the money that you put up to establish that secure card can and will be refunded to you. It's not always the case. Please read the fine lines in the agreements in order to make sure that when it is time for you to get that money back, you are eligible to receive that money back. Now, if a secure card is not an option for you, or you don't want to go that route, you also can see about getting added to someone else's account as an authorized user. Now, because it is so easy to mess up your credit and kind of a challenge and requires a lot of patience to rebuild your credit, that might be a hard option for somebody unless it's your mother or your father that's okay with adding you as an authorized user. Because an authorized user is not financially responsible to pay for the balance. However, they don't need a card if your main objective is just to get added so that you can reap the benefits of somebody that has great credit. Somebody that has great credit is going to have a good score, and that score will also report to you. So whatever payment history they have on that account will now be reflected on your credit. That payment history and things of that nature, even the time that it's been open, will now report to you as well. So don't look down on credit, because in order to get a house, in order to get a car, unless you have that amount in cash to buy outright in cash, you're going to need credit. You're going to need credit. And that can be for repair. I don't know anybody. And if you're balling, you probably don't need to be looking at this video. But utilize your credit in the way that you would your cash on a monthly basis. Meaning that if you have to buy groceries, the money that you would budget for groceries, use your credit card. If the money you would budget for to put gas in your car, use your credit card. So somebody wanted to be picked up, as you can see, but you're going to need credit. So I just recommend to use it responsibly. Like, don't get a credit card just so that you can go out and buy Gucci if that's not something that you're able to afford. Because getting credit, you're still financing. If you're just starting out, your interest rate is most likely going to be high. Who wants to sit up there and pay 20% on something that they can't afford? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, if you're not able to pay that in full within that time period that is allotted, you're going to be paying more than the cost of the item. So think about that when you're researching the credit cards or whatever, because that is going to play a factor. That is going to determine your riskiness. Like, credit card companies utilize like how you're spending. Like, if it looks like you're living off of it or you're not using it appropriately, that can affect your score as well. So we just talked about getting familiar with your credit bureau. Also, applying for credit. Another thing to help you establish or rebuild credit is job history. Even if you don't have any credit, most places are willing to take a risk and loan you money for something if they see that you have excellent job history. Like for me, I've been on my job it'll be 16 years in September. That looks good. That does not look risky, because then they know at least I have an income to suffice anything that I'm applying for and asking for. So keep that in mind. If you go from job to job, or it's been a long period of time, if you're not working and you're in your late 30s to 40s, like, that can look risky, as well as having like a bad payment history. So if you're more mature and you don't have the best payment history and you're not consistent with a job, that can be a red flag for companies. You may have a hard time getting money borrowed to you because of that reason. Also, if you have anything that's in collections that is valid and legitly yours, then a lot of times, if it's been so long, those companies are willing to offer a settlement. Now, I have been seeing recent posts talking about that if it's in collections, that means that it's been sold to another agency, and because it's no longer with the one you acquired the debt with, you're not responsible for paying. That sounds about right, but I cannot guarantee you that that's right. I cannot necessarily say, no, you don't have to pay that, because I don't know that to be 100% true. I've never had that situation. I've had things in collections that I had to call and set up. That's not my testimony right now. It may have been 7 years ago, but 7 years ago, I've had to pay stuff that was in collections. So research that. It also depends on what state you're in. Each state has different laws. So yeah, you just got to find that out. It's also important to maintain good payment history. Now, I've worked in banking for, like I said, 16 years. They have records of how long you've been paying, how long you paid on time. so forth and so on. Now, if you feel like you're going to be late with something, or like the payment date does not work for you, there's a way to change that information. Do not, if you can avoid going late, try not to go late, because if it reports to the credit bureau, it takes a while for that information to fall off. And credit card or lenders can look at you as being risky if you're constantly paying late. So hopefully you looked at my last video. That I uploaded. It gave you tips gave what I utilize, and that also helped improve my credit score as well as improve my savings account. So you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket to get a whole bunch of chickens. So get your coins and do what works for you without robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that's my tip on that situation. Make sure that you're making on time payments and paying the amount that, at least the minimum amount that is due, in order to not hurt yourself. Some places will say that they don't report, like I know car payments, anything greater than 30 days it's going to report. So that's something to keep in mind when you're prioritizing what you need to pay every month. So those are the things that come to the top of my mind. I'm very distracted because I'm holding on to the baby's leg right now, making sure she don't keep rolling all over this bed onto the floor. So if there's any additional questions that you have for me, definitely let me know. Again, I'm going to supply my email address. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can definitely send me a request. And like I said, I will provide some individuals that are now in that credit repair business. Again, anything you do, just do your research. I live in Delaware, so this is what has worked for me living in this state. Everybody may be different. So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this year will be the year that you get that business you wanted, to get that business loan, that home loan, that car finance, anything your wish desires. It's time to boss up. We're not getting no younger. And again, if I could help somebody, I will.